Her name is Amina Karanja. Amina was born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya. Ever since she was a child, Amina loved animals more than anything else. She would spend hours at the local animal shelters, playing with dogs and watching birds. Her passion for wildlife grew stronger as she got older. After finishing high school, Amina knew she wanted to do something special with animals, so she studied zoology at the University of Nairobi. When she graduated, she received an exciting offer to work at the Nairobi National Park, located just outside the city. It was a dream come true for Amina, who had always wanted to be close to wild animals. At the park, Amina took care of many animals, including rare species like the endangered black rhino. Her work was tough, but every time she saw an animal thrive, she felt proud. The job taught her more than she had imagined about animals and how to protect them. But as much as Amina loved working at the park, she began to feel a calling to do more. She wanted to be in the heart of the wild, where she could do more for the animals. One day, while sitting at her desk, she saw a news story about the Masai Mara Reserve, a vast, beautiful place where wildlife roams freely. It was known as one of the most famous wildlife reserves in Africa. Amina felt something deep inside her stir. She knew she had to go there. A few months later, Amina packed her things and left Nairobi. Her journey led her to the Masai Mara Reserve, located in southwestern Kenya. This reserve was known for its stunning landscapes and abundant wildlife. Amina was excited, but she also felt nervous. She had never worked in such a remote place before. The climate here was harsh, hot during the day and freezing at night. But Amina was ready. Her passion for animals burned bright, and nothing was going to stop her. From the moment she arrived, Amina felt the call of the wild. She joined a team of dedicated wildlife rangers and began her work. Each day, she patrolled the vast grasslands, tracking animals and making sure poachers didn't harm the wildlife. Her job was dangerous, but Amina loved it. She had a special gift for connecting with the animals, and she often spent her free time observing the behavior of the lions, elephants, and rhinos. Her notebook was filled with notes, observations, and sketches of the animals she encountered. It was the most thrilling experience of her life, but Amina knew that her work was just beginning. She had a mission to protect these animals from the dangers that lurked in the wild. One morning, Amina's usual patrol partner fell ill, and she had to go out alone. Her heart raced as she grabbed her equipment, making sure she had everything she needed for the long day ahead. The sun was already climbing high in the sky, and the heat was unbearable. But Amina wasn't scared. She loved the challenge, and she was determined to make sure no animal was harmed on her watch. As she drove her ATV over the rough, dusty terrain, she felt a thrill of excitement. It was peaceful, but she knew danger could be anywhere. And then she saw something that stopped her heart. A strange truck was parked under the shade of a tree, hidden in the bushes. It didn't belong here. Amina's heart began to race as she stared at the strange truck hidden in the bushes. Something didn't feel right. Her hands gripped the steering wheel of the ATV as she slowly drove closer, her eyes fixed on the truck. The vehicle was new, and there were no license plates. This wasn't a normal sight in the Masai Mara. Amina's instincts told her that something was wrong. She carefully stopped her ATV, parking it a few meters away. She reached for her binoculars and scanned the truck, looking for any signs of danger. She could hear the distant calls of birds and the soft rustle of the wind, but her attention was focused entirely on the truck. A sense of unease washed over her. There was no one around, and the truck was parked in a secluded spot. Why would someone hide here, away from the main road? Amina knew she had to investigate. She took a deep breath and made her decision. She would approach the truck cautiously, hoping to find out what was going on. As Amina stepped out of the ATV and walked toward the truck, the heat of the day pressed down on her. The air felt thick, and the sun was beating down. She squinted against the glare, but her determination kept her moving forward. The truck remained still, almost like it was waiting for something. or someone. When she got closer, she raised her hand and motioned for the driver to stop. At first, the truck kept moving slowly like it hadn't noticed her. But Amina wasn't backing down. With a firm gesture, she ordered the truck to stop. It came to a halt just a meter away from her. Her heart was racing now, and she could feel the tension in the air. Amina approached the truck carefully, her voice steady but firm as she asked the driver to open the trunk. The two men inside the truck exchanged quick, nervous glances. They didn't say anything, but nodded and opened the trunk without protest. What Amina saw inside shocked her. There, tightly chained and struggling to breathe, was a black rhino. Her stomach twisted in disbelief. This wasn't just any animal in trouble, it was the work of poachers. Amina's eyes widened as she realized what she was witnessing. These men were trying to steal the rhino, likely to sell it or harm it in some way. Without thinking, she turned quickly to get back to her ATV and call for backup. But before she could take another step, the two men grabbed her. They were stronger than she expected, and they moved fast. Amina struggled, trying to break free, but they forced her to the ground. They tied her hands with thick rope, making sure she couldn't escape. Amina's heart pounded in her chest as she shouted at them, warning them that the law would catch up to them. But the poachers just ignored her and laughed, starting the truck and driving away at full speed. Amina was left alone, lying in the dirt beneath the scorching sun. Her wrists burned from the tight ropes, and sweat dripped down her face. The harsh heat made her dizzy, but she refused to give up. She pulled at the ropes with all her might, but they wouldn't budge. The more she struggled, the tighter they seemed to become. She knew she had to stay calm. She couldn't let panic take over. But as the sun climbed higher, her strength was fading. Just when she thought she might lose hope, she heard something behind her, a deep, growling roar. Amina's eyes snapped open and she turned her head toward the sound. A shadow loomed behind her, and her breath caught in her throat. The roar grew louder, and the ground seemed to shake with each step. Then, out of the tall grass, a pride of lionesses appeared, surrounding her. Amina's heart raced in fear. She tried to move, but the lionesses closed in, their eyes fixed on her. She was trapped. But then something incredible happened. The lionesses parted, and a large male lion stepped forward. Amina froze, her eyes wide with surprise. The lion slowly walked toward her, his golden mane flowing in the wind. His sharp gaze locked onto Amina, and for a moment, it felt like time had stopped. Then, to her shock, the lion began pawing at the rope that bound her hands. At first, Amina thought she was imagining it, but the lion kept working at the rope, using his powerful claws. She could hardly believe what was happening. And then it hit her. This was the same lion she had helped a year ago. She remembered it clearly now, the day she found him injured by a hyena attack. She had cared for him, helping him recover over the next few months. This was the lion she saved, and now he was returning the favor. With one final swipe, the lion tore through the rope and Amina's hands were free. Tears filled her eyes as she hugged the lion. His soft growl seemed to say, "Thank you." In that moment, Amina knew that kindness could come back when you least expect it. Amina stood up, her hands finally free, and the adrenaline was still coursing through her veins. She couldn't believe what had just happened. The male lion, the one she had saved a year ago, had come to her rescue. Her heart swelled with gratitude as she looked at him, the powerful creature standing protectively by her side. It was as if the wild had come full circle, and the lion was now showing her that kindness never goes unnoticed. But Amina didn't have time to dwell on that moment. The poachers were still out there, and the rhino was in danger. Her mission was clear. She had to act quickly. Without wasting another second, Amina sprinted back to her ATV. Her legs felt weak, and her body ached from the heat and exhaustion, but she pushed through. The lion stayed by her side, watching as she climbed onto the ATV. With shaky hands, she started the engine and gripped the steering wheel. The radio crackled to life, and Amina quickly contacted the ranger station. "Poachers spotted," she said, her voice urgent. "I need backup immediately. They've taken a rhino." The station confirmed they were sending a team right away, but Amina knew the poachers had a head start. She couldn't afford to waste time. With the lion's gaze still on her, Amina sped off, racing across the vast plains of the Masai Mara. The sun was blazing above her, but she barely felt the heat now. Her mind was focused solely on the mission. She followed the trail of the truck, keeping her eyes peeled for any signs of movement. Her heart beat faster with every passing minute, the weight of what was at stake pressing down on her. If they didn't catch the poachers soon, the rhino might not survive.
A few hours passed, but then, just as hope was starting to fade, Amina saw something in the distance. A truck, moving quickly along the edge of the forest. Her pulse quickened. She knew this was the moment. She called for backup again, giving them the truck's location. Her voice was steady, but inside, she was shaking. Amina pushed the ATV harder, racing toward the truck. Her eyes were locked on the poacher's vehicle, now just a few hundred meters away. The truck tried to speed up, but Amina and her team were closing in fast. Within minutes, the police had blocked the road, and the poachers were trapped. They tried to escape, but the authorities were too quick. Amina watched as the two men were taken out of the truck, their hands cuffed behind their backs. The poachers were caught, but it wasn't over yet. Amina rushed to the back of the truck, where the rhino was still chained up. She could hear its heavy breathing and the sound of panic in its movements. The poor creature was terrified, but Amina spoke to it softly, trying to calm it down. With careful hands, she unlocked the chains, setting the rhino free. It staggered for a moment, but soon it was standing on its own, looking around, its eyes wide with fear, but also relief. Amina smiled. She knew that the rhino would be okay. It wasn't seriously injured, and the veterinarians had already been contacted to check on it. Soon, a team of wildlife experts arrived, and they began to examine the rhino, making sure it was healthy. Amina watched, relieved to see that the animal was strong and would recover. She felt proud. This was why she came to Masai Mara, to protect these beautiful creatures. Her heart was full, knowing that this rhino had been saved, and the poachers would face justice. Later, after the rhino was safely escorted back to the reserve, Amina stood with her team, watching as the authorities drove the two poachers away. They had been arrested and would be charged with illegal hunting and trafficking of endangered species. Amina felt a rush of triumph, knowing that the fight to protect wildlife was worth every challenge. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the savannah, Amina sat down by the side of the reserve. Her body was exhausted, but her spirit felt strong. She had made a difference today. The lion, the one who had saved her, stood by her once again, watching over the horizon. Amina smiled at the majestic animal, silently thanking him. She knew she would always have a special bond with the wild, and today, the wild had returned the favor. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, but Amina was ready. She had found her purpose in Masai Mara, and nothing would stop her from continuing her mission to protect the animals she loved. Amina finally returned to her small house at the edge of the reserve. As she settled into bed, her mind wandered back to the events of the day. She smiled softly, grateful for the strange luck that had saved her and the rhino. And as sleep began to take over, she whispered to herself, "Tomorrow is another day to protect the wild." As Amina drifted off to sleep, her mind filled with the memories of the day's wild events, she couldn't help but feel thankful for everything. Her journey was just beginning, and she was ready for whatever came next. If you've enjoyed this thrilling adventure and want to see more stories of bravery, wildlife, and unforgettable moments, make sure to hit that like button. Show your love for the wild and all the incredible creatures that call it home. And don't forget to subscribe, because in this world, every story has its own wild adventure waiting to unfold. Join Amina's mission, and together, let's make sure the wild always has a voice. Stay tuned for more. This is only the beginning.